Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci, and this is NLL Lacrosse Talk. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now joining us is my partner in crime, Gary Groob, and of course our special guest, Sean Ferris. And I was just looking up to see if I had Sean's phone number. The reason I might have had Sean's number is because he checked some of the projects I used to do. I worked for a couple of companies up there in Burlington. You know the big UPS plant?
Yep, I did that one with
So did I.
Sora Construction.
Yeah, you did Sora. Sora worked on for me. I was with Giffels. I was a site manager.
Oh, there you go. Small world.
Yeah, I recognized your name. Said I know this guy.
Yeah.
You were the guy we dreaded.
Well, I was the nice guy.
You were the best guy. Every one of you guys were the best guy. I'm not going to say anything negative about inspectors. Soil inspection is a really important thing, and I guess it was Shaheen and Peaker that did that one. I think it was.
That was a big job site.
A million square foot, the biggest project I ever supervised.
That was huge. I remember when they were paving it. I couldn't believe the paving with all the boxes where everything was coming out. Right, like the UPS is a big site, but all the storage buildings that they had to open up for the trucks.
Yep.
And that was just amazing. But I know we had an issue with the water main coming off of North Service Road where you had to do night work and connect into it.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about that. I also did the Maytag store just in front of it. The Maytag warehouse, sorry.
Yeah, that was the old Hoover property where they had a bunch of contaminated soil there.
It was a nightmare. It surely was a nightmare.
Yes.
Anyway, that's the fun part of our life. Let's talk about, now we've discussed what you do for a living, we'll say. Let's talk about what you do and I'm going to assume out of love. And I also want to know, how did you get involved in lacrosse? Like, what happened? How did they?
I always call my real job, and basically I was born in East York in Toronto, and I played baseball. So I played MTHL hockey in Toronto, House League, then worked up to MTHL. And my dad said, you got to do something in the summertime. And if you all remember the Blue Jays in 1977, that was the big thing, right? So I played a year or two of softball. And I said to my dad, I said, I'd like to play something else. So looking in the Toronto Sun, he found an article for the Scarborough Saints. So if you showed up to this thing at the gym, you got yourself a free lacrosse stick. So I went to this thing, showed up. They gave me a lacrosse stick and a ball, and we just played wall ball back and forth. And that's kind of how I signed up in House League Lacrosse with the Scarborough Saints. And I think I was 12 or 13 there. So again, that's kind of where it started. And hockey was always first, but then after that, lacrosse has obviously taken over. So moved to Burlington in 1981. My dad got transferred from Coca-Cola in Toronto and moved to Hamilton, and born and raised in Burlington. Been there ever since. Haven't left.
I lived at Winston Churchill in the QEW.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. There you go.
You skipped one, man. You skipped the Toronto Beaches, which is
I don't know.
So going back to that, Gary, that's a good question. So I played a year of House League, and then my 1 year I played for the Toronto Arrows hockey. We used to play out of De La Salle, and the old coach there, Mark Smith, and I think the dad's name was Ron, but Shane Smith, he played lacrosse, so they introduced me into that. So I played House League lacrosse for the Beaches on the outdoor at Q Beach, and then I started playing reps. So that was, I think, my second year Pee Wee or first year Bantam. So I played 2 years out of the Q Beach there in Zone 6, back then Zone 6. So it was Peterborough. I think there was Oshawa. I'm trying to think of the other teams, Whitby, obviously. But yeah, that was Zone 6. That was tough lacrosse there. And that was my first kind of fix into in the lacrosse there. And then again, like I said, I moved to Burlington in 1981. And when I moved there, we went to the Nationals. So I had my first experience playing in the Nationals in Kitchener. And that's kind of ran into the gates, both Gary and Paul. So pretty amazing.
Yeah, I did the play-by-play for the Toronto Beaches junior lacrosse team in the 80s for Rogers.
And that was out of Ted Reeves?
Nope. Out of the Rain Bucket.
Out of the Rain Bucket.
Yeah, the one beside the Variety Village.
Oh, okay.
The name just eluded me.
Was it Birchmount?
Yeah, Birchmount Arena.
Yeah, Birchmount Arena. So
yeah, it used to rain the next day.
Well, that was the funny thing, Frank, is when we played at a Q Beach there. Anytime it rained or we got there before it rained, everybody brought the squeegees out. So you had the squeegees.
Absolutely.
And, we had to do that. So I remember that was kind of the fun part where you play lacrosse there. But again, if there was a rain before practice or after, you got the squeegees out and you got to clean the floor. So that was kind of the excitement with that.
At Birchmount, you waited till the next day until all the water went into the roof and then started leaking out onto the arena.
Yeah, I was
Boys
lucky.
were out there with squeegees, buckets, anything. All the players, they usually had their games they were a little more not as fit for those games because they worked really hard to get it so that they could play. It
Right.
was, it's one of the challenges. I guess if I can segue to what we do, lacrosse's major challenge is that it's not mainstream by definition. It is. It's basically a sport that survives strictly because of itself. You know what I mean? And now we're looking for and we're hoping for, with the growth of it in the NLL and the growth in the United States, that we're hoping the growth will happen in lacrosse here as well, where the numbers get more and more, as opposed to maintaining a level that they've maintained for decades. It's not like it's disappeared. It's been a wonderful sport that people who've been lucky enough to pick up a stick got to be a part of it.
I think the big thing too, to go off that, is being on TV. So I know there was the old Pro League back in the early 70s, and I think it was defunct in 74. But, anytime, as the Toronto Rock put it on TV back in the day when it first started, when it's on TV, that's what kids want to do, right? So as soon as that's on TV, they all go, that's what I want to do. So I think you see that. The growth
Absolutely.
grows on TV.
Absolutely. If it's not on mainstream television, it's not viewed and it's not participated in. And it is a sport that it really does draw curiosity because it's so different than any other sport. There aren't many sports like it. People talk about hockey, but it's played in a hockey arena, but it's a totally different game, and it's a game that's fun to watch, and it's something that you have to almost back in. Gary, why don't you grill this guy? I want you to grill him real good because he used to grill me real good on projects. So grill him good. Get him under that.
They're all done though, aren't they? Hey, Frank, they're all done.
Absolutely. Nothing like substantial completion because everybody gets paid.
And you get your deposit back.
Absolutely. And on that project, it was a nice chunk of change.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah, all kidding aside, it really is a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, no, thanks, Frank. I didn't even realize that was you with Giffel, so that's a small world.
Well, it was Jay Bishop. Jay Bishop. I was doing the Maytag, and Jay Bishop, when he needed somebody to take over on weekends and stuff, I would take over. And when he had appointments and stuff, you may remember Jay. Jay, I might even be watching. I think his son's a lacrosse player.
Well, you know what's funny? You got the lacrosse phone, you got the work phone. They're always going on. So.
I have one phone. My budget allows only one phone.
Mine keeps going off anyway, so I want to start off by saying happy birthday, Sean.
Thank you very much, Gary. Like I said, appreciate
Your birthday too?
56 today.
Mine was on Monday.
Oh, there you go. Aquarius. We're all Aquarius here.
Absolutely.
So you went with the Bay Area Bengals for your junior from 85 to 88. Let's talk a little bit about the organization, players, coaches, things that shaped you for the player that you became.
Well, as I said, when I moved to Burlington in 81, I had a chance to play minor lacrosse through Bantam and midget, and how that kind of took upon when I tried out in 1984. It was still called the Hamilton Bengals, and then it ended up changing to the Bay Area Bengals in 85. So the thing that's unique about that is the two teams that came together. There was the Burlington Chiefs and the Hamilton Bengals, and that's when it formed into the Bay Area Bengals. And when you look at it, that team that won the Bantam Nationals in 1982, with Paul Constant, Johnny Blair, Joel Walsh, Mike Follows, right? That was a great team. And then again with Hamilton, they won the Midget Nationals, I think the year after or the year before. So they thought that we're going to be, a great junior A franchise having those two teams and those players meshed together. And I got my start in 1985. So I still got my old Hamilton Bengals jersey, but and a few of my Bay Area Bengal jerseys. But yeah, that's kind of how it was formed. And then after the Bengals, it ended up changing into the Burlington Chiefs. But that's how I kind of got started. So my first coach that I had was Phil Morgan, who is one of those technical coaches, knew the game inside out, ran great practices, and there's some great players that I played through there with, obviously, who I coach with now, Ed Como. There was Mike Green. There was John and Jay Koppel, Matt Firth, who's involved with Nepean now, and his kids now in the NLL, and has a kid that plays in the Beaches that's going to be going to Ohio State. So it's funny how it regenerates, how the kids, the guys we played with, and now their sons are all involved in lacrosse too. So it's great. Like I said, it's a small community, but when you see the game develop where it's going to, but the skill level now from when we played to where it is now, it's tremendous.
Yeah. You had a good junior career though, at 100 games, 53 goals, 70 assists. Back then it was still two-way play though, right?
Yeah. And that's the difference. So when I played, you did play two ways. So you basically went on the floor, offense, played defense, and then you came off. And where the game's changed today, where they have offense, defense. And I know it starts at midget, but back then, plus the wood sticks, that was the other thing. I call it the equalizer. Guys now with the plastic sticks, with a wood stick, like if you got it down in the O end, they were coming back and they were getting it back in the D end. So the game has changed and evolved. But with the sticks and the equipment, the technology we have, the bigger nets, and the game's evolved, but it's just being on the bench to watch. It's just amazing some of the way the players play and how good condition that they are.
The sheer speed over the years is just absolutely uncanny.
Yes. There was guys back then that were really fast and quick, but I think all guys in this day and age, it's a fast man's game. And we kind of talked this earlier, Gary, is, having this sixes, right? And that's kind of the speed game. I call it speed lacrosse now. And that's the new up and coming game that I think will be turning into. So we have our field, we have our box now, this new sixes, which is good for both men's and women's. And it's great to see.
Anything to create interest is good for the game.
Yes, and it makes lacrosse on a bigger branch, right? And going back to the junior days, right? Like there was no one that really had scholarships going down to the States. The Gates are probably the first ones going down to Syracuse. I know there was the odd guy. There was Blaine Harrison who went to Michigan State. Stan Cochran, who was in North Carolina, Huntley that was in John Hopkins. But now these kids have opportunities for scholarship, because when I grew up, everybody was hockey. And now it's hockey and lacrosse, which is good to see. And I think you kind of determine where you're fitting in. Am I going to be a hockey guy? Or am I going to be a lacrosse guy? And that's both men's and women's, right? And there's a lot of opportunity in there. And to get an education now, it's crucial.
Yeah. So you wound up at Senior B with Fergus. You win in 90 and 92 the President's Cup. Let's talk a little bit about those years.
So my last year of junior, which was 88, I got brought up because Ed Como was already playing up there, and I'm trying to think of who else from Burlington or was on the junior A team. So I got called up for a game. So I played against Peterborough. That was my one and only game up there. And then the next year, some of those guys that I mentioned, Mike Green, Jay Koppel, and Matt Firth, they were up in Orangeville, actually Orangeville too. And we're in Orangeville, and then Orangeville folded. Then they went to One Sound. So we kind of had the Burlington guys going to Fergus, and then like Mike Green and Matt Firth and John Koppel, even Rod Chatelaine, who was involved back in the day too. He went up there too. So that's kind of how I got involved into Fergus. So in 89, we didn't even play in Fergus that year. The arena was condemned. So we played out of Guelph. So we played our season up there in Guelph and playing there, met a lot of good players there. There was Bob McGinn, Jimmy Watkins and Rob Mason were our goalies back then too. So we had a playoff there. So that's when you played senior B and major played together. So you played against each other during the season, and then basically as the season split, the senior B teams played off in the playoffs for the senior championship. The majors played against. So basically Peterborough, Brooklyn, and I'm trying to think who else was there would play major playoffs, so which they compete for the Mann Cup.
You had one kick with the Mann Cup. You had the with the Six Nations Chiefs in '96. Let's talk about that.
So '96, that's the year I got married to my lovely wife, and I wasn't actually playing lacrosse. I got a call from Cat Bomberry and Dave General, who was one of my old coaches that was in my last year in Bay Area. They were looking someone for a right-hander, so I just kind of went out and signed at the deadline there and had a chance. I think I played 4 regular season games and played 2 playoff games and had a chance to win a Mann Cup with a great bunch of players that had the three-peat, right? So you had a lot of those guys, John Tavares, Troy Cordingley. They were on those 2 Brampton teams that won, and then they had 3, and Neil Doddridge, and then they had a chance to win the 3rd Mann Cup. So a lot of those guys won 5 Mann Cups in a row. So to be a part of that history there was pretty honorary with those guys. So it was good.
And then you also had a kick at field lacrosse. You won 94, 95, and 97 with Hamilton, right?
Yeah, so we played for the Ross Cup a couple times, but we played with the Burlington Lakers there. So I think the one year we went out west, we won the Ontario's, went out west to Winnipeg, lost to a powerful Victoria team. That team was pretty well stacked with all, eventually NLL players, but guys that already had scholarships in the States. But again, great rivalry with those 2 seasons. So it was Ontario against BC, but yeah, those were pretty good. And Oshawa, we competed the one year too in the final. So again, with Jeff Dowling, there was Ed Como, Ross Cowie, Ted Sawicki was our other goalie, and we had a bunch of local players, Pete Bowers. Right. So it was quite an experience.
So the playing comes to an end, and here's the NLL comes in, and you become a scout with the Toronto Rock. How did that come about?
So hanging out with all our lacrosse guys. Like I said, I played with Eddie my full junior career until he kind of moved on. And then they started a team with the Ontario Raiders, which was in 1998. So that was when the MLL kind of said to Fritz and Klein, they said, okay, you own these teams, you own these teams. So they had a team, the Ontario Raiders. So we used to do the stats at the Cops Coliseum back then for that year. And then after that, I don't want to say league folded, they kind of franchised it. And they created the Toronto Rock, which the Waters Group purchased. Mm-hmm. And with Les Bartley, who was with the Bandits, and this was a new team with the Ontario Raiders. They went to Toronto. So I went to Toronto as a scout. I was there from 99 to 2005. So winning 4 championships out, I think, 6 seasons. And then after I was done that, I got a call from Paul Day. They needed a defensive coach, and that's kind of how I started my coaching career in the NLL in 2005. So I owe Paul Day and Eddie Como a lot of that to get on the bench.
There was an Ottawa connection there because of the Waters.
What's that, sorry?
There was an Ottawa connection because of the Waters.
Yes. So what happened there was, so when they had that, they got another franchise, which ended up being the Ottawa Rebels. So they had 2 teams. So they had the Toronto Rock going. Then I think the year after that, Ottawa got a franchise. So the Waters Group had 2 teams. And then after that, I think the next year, they ended up getting the Montreal Express. So that being a 1-team, 1-year wonder, which, playing out of Montreal was great. That the old Forum, but they played out of the new arena there. It's incredible. Like I said, 22,000 seat arena. And the crowds there just loved the lacrosse. It's too bad it only lasted 1 year there.
And I could never figure that out.
I'm always hoping that they go back, because to get Quebec City, they need Montreal, because there's always that little brother syndrome. Quebec is never interested in anything until Montreal gets it. Then they'll do it better.
There's still talk of a team going there, and I think with COVID, it kind of put, when you look at new franchises that are coming to the NLL, there's always talk about Montreal, and I think again, you've got Vancouver, Calgary, Saskatchewan, you've got Toronto, right, and
you're in Nova Scotia too. That's why much of the people are curious as to how we can get a team there and not in Montreal.
Yeah. Well, and that's funny. You talk about the CFL, right? Like the CFL stops at Montreal. Like, why wouldn't you go to Halifax and go put a CFL team? So again,
pandemic.
Yeah, that's right. Right. And then if the
pandemic ended it,
the NLL's got to start coming from between Toronto and Halifax and get a team in Quebec City or Montreal. So again, we hope with expansion, which is not going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but we're just trying to make sure the 15 teams are going in the league right now. But it's a great sport. It's growing, and the new team in Vegas seems to be doing well this year too. A couple of wins, and they're having great crowds.
Definitely.
A fun suggestion I make is, how about a team in Oshawa?
I always loved that idea because that would awaken the East crowd that lost out when Toronto went to Hamilton. But
yes,
and that would also awaken the Peterborough
now,
crowd.
Oshawa would basically be the Peterborough team, but Oshawa has the arena. Peterborough doesn't.
Right.
Be interesting anyway.
The
East End.
Something for the future anyway.
Well, we have a lot of friends that go to CFL games and lacrosse games, and a lot of them come from that area, even as far as Ajax. So, lacrosse's interest is deep in Ontario, but it has some real solid places, and we don't have to look east. You look west of Toronto, Orangeville. We've had all these wonderful people in there. You're in hometown lacrosse, being in Burlington because of Oakville and the track, and there's a lot of great opportunities for kids to play lacrosse in that community in your area.
Yeah, I give Jamie a lot of credit for taking that over once the Waters Group sold, and Jamie took over the team and built this facility in Oakville. It's just tremendous to minor lacrosse, kids lacrosse, field lacrosse, and he's done a great job of promoting lacrosse in Southern Ontario. Be nice if we could get another facility, somewhere north, somewhere east, somewhere west to compete with that. But again, it's just outstanding what he's done with minor lacrosse.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Gary.
It really is amazing because when Jamie actually took over the team from the Waters, I was at track yesterday, and I remember driving by a little business section there, and the Rock offices were in the basement of that little business section. So to come from that little 2-room thing to where it is now at track is absolutely incredible what Jamie did there.
Yeah. When he purchased that and built the two rinks there, which I'm glad he's got turf in both of them now. But when he had ball hockey in there and field lacrosse or box in the other, it's glad that I think 3 years ago he changed that over and put 2 turf fields, and plus having the turf field outside. I think his plan was to have a second field there, but because of zoning and that, he had to put a storm management pond in there, and he couldn't get that second field in. But again, it's just a great facility, and it's great for kids lacrosse. Having tournaments, play downs, provincials, and it's really helped Oakville lacrosse develop.
Absolutely,
it's NLL, man. It's amazing how many teams put their practices in there.
Yeah, and you see what's happened to Brampton now, right? Memorial, they've changed that they put turf in there now. So you got another rink that's in there that you have that. So if we could have more arenas in Southern Ontario or Ontario period that would have turf in there, it just helps develop the game.
Absolutely. So when you're with Rochester with Paul Day, you win the cup in 2007. So there's your 5th championship.
So 4 years as being a scout, and then actually Paul left, I think, in 2006 to start Edmonton. So they're the new expansion team. So Eddie took over as the head coach there. So that year was pretty special in 2007. That's the year that I think we started at 1-2, and then we won 14 games, right? So we won 14 straight, and then we found out championship game couldn't be in Rochester because the old circus was coming to town. It was already booked. So we had to play that game in Arizona, which was fine. So to win that, it was pretty special with that group. And if you look at the players that were on that team, John Grant Jr., Sean Williams, Ken Millen, Scott Evans, Sean Evans, Micah Kersey. Like that was just a dynamite offense, paddle tool and net. And then we had a great mixture with the defense. We had half American, half Canadian. And, we did a great job. We had, Sandy Chapman, we had Billy Greer, and then our American players were Reggie Thorpe, great leader, Marshall Abrams, Chris Schiller, Pat Kugavan. So you look at that mixture we had on defense, and that was one of the first times I got to work with a lot of American players, and they really loved the game. And if this league has to grow, you have to have U.S. players playing in this league to expand it. It's good to see that a lot of them have taking on the indoor game. They all love it. It's funny because they all say the same thing. I wish I knew this game earlier because they would have played indoor box lacrosse before field.
Mm-hmm. It's usually the case. You do the tour circuit with Eddie. Yeah, you wind up in New York / Orlando, Colorado, and then you wind up at where you are now in Georgia, and you win a championship in 2017 with one of the greatest teams I'd seen in a long time.
Yeah,
I was there for the final, so I was in Saskatoon when that overtime goal went in.
That's quite the place to win in Saskatchewan. It was pretty special, and to beat that team, they were very good because they're defending champs and they're twice before. But again, with that 2017 team, we made a couple deals. John Arlotta, who's our owner / GM, made two crucial moves. I thought he got Jordan Hall, and we picked up Jordan Hall, was a veteran guy who helped us out. And I think the other person that was key on that too is signing Mike Poulin as a free agent. So the year before we lost our first year when John moved the team from Minnesota to Georgia, we lost our in overtime, sudden death overtime to New England, and Sean Evans scored within the first minute. I think we had a penalty and they scored on a power play. But to go from that year, 2016, with the nucleus and players that we had, to pick up the Jordan Halls. And that year, too, we had three rookies that were on that team, Brian Cole, Leo Sturros, and Connor Sellers, who were three draft picks that were crucial in winning that 2017 championship, as well as getting Jordan Hall, training for Jordan Hall, and signing Mike Poulin as a free agent. So that was Mike's way of winning a championship. And I know a lot of guys are saying that was their first championship too, but that was a pretty special group that we had.
Mm-hmm. Arlotta was as smart as Keenan, though, because draft after draft in the later rounds, he'd be trading off picks for next draft and getting a good little nest egg of picks to make sure that you had really good selections, and it paid off.
Yeah, John's a pretty smart businessman for what he's coming out of the healthcare business, and where he is today is because he works at it, and just no different than coaching and players, right? He's a guy that's very passionate, and he loves winning, and he's pretty smart man. The one time when I first met him here, he's got a 5-year plan, and he's got all these guys all charted out over here and everything else. And it's amazing what he does, but John's a smart businessman. He's a smart lacrosse mind too. For the 7 years that I've been with him in Georgia, he's always got a plan. So he's good. He works at it. He works at it hard, just as we do as coaches and as players. Like, it's his passion.
Let's fast forward up to this year. You take a big hit before the season starts. You lose Jordan Hall, who retires. You lose Mike Poulin, who retires. You lose Joel White, who retires. And these are big holes to fill.
You can add Steph LeBlanc in there too. We picked him up knowing that we had a chance to do that. And then when you lose veteran leaders from all four of those guys, especially Mike as your starting goalie, and then Jordan Hall and Steph on the left side of our offense, and then Joel White. So those were 5 crucial guys, or 4 crucial guys that would do that. But it gave our young kids or young players a chance to step up. And I think we're still trying to find our way and create our identity. But, our record doesn't, as people say, we're the best 0-6 team. Well, hopefully after this weekend, we're the best 1-6 team. But again, it's tough.
I still think, we talked about off air, I still think it should be 3-3, honestly.
Yeah.
Watching these games.
there's games that you have leads and there's ways of doing it, but again, it's just we're trying to create our identity here, and we're not too far off, and we're not trying to be discouraged here. So the third of our season is done, and you look at our schedule, like we played Rochester first week off for 2, and then the second game off for 2, and then you end up playing Buffalo twice, now Toronto for 2 times, and we played Colorado in between that too. So you're playing 3 of the top teams in our league right now, and that's just the way the schedule goes, and we got to get through that. And it's not going to get any easier. So we play every week now, and that's a good thing. We'll get back into a rhythm. But when you're playing for a week or 2 and you're off, and that you're trying to get that rhythm and identity going as a group, and I know our guys will be there to do it. So we're excited to be in Hamilton on Saturday to play the Rock.
Well, you also have some great players too, right? You have Shane Jackson, Lanchbury, Andrew Q, Bombury. These are prolific scorers. So it's just a matter of time for them all to get on. And there's going to be one game where it's just going to be everybody gets on. And it's going to be fireworks as well as of course.
I think, again, guys are trying to gel and get some chemistry together. And once that's we're not that far off. So once we achieve that, I think there's only one way, as we said, up. And I know the guys are kicking at the can here to get going this week, and it's a home game for a lot of our guys too. So it's extra special when you're close to home, playing in front of friends and family.
Do we expect to see Wendy and Net after last week?
I can't say that. I don't make the final decision on that, but yeah, it's after that game, he came in and Dobson. We didn't support Dobson there. I felt really bad for him, but when he came in and did his job and basically gave us a chance to win, and we didn't get the job done. So again,
first
I don't want to tip my hat off here, but again, it doesn't matter who's in net, doesn't matter who's playing. The guys will be ready to play this weekend.
Absolutely. Now, you also had time with the Oakville Titans, who are now the Oakville Rock. Let's talk a little bit about that time with Frank Lachowski's team. You were with Bob McMahon as assistant coaches, and in my opinion, again, you should have won the Prezi back in 2019, but for a crazy last quarter.
Yeah, so if you go back to that, Frank, I known Frank actually. Eddie and I coached Frank back in our junior days. So Frank then and Frank now is 2 different things. But Frank's a great coach, and he doesn't get a lot of credit. But I know the boys loved him there, and he built up a good team there. So being on board, my last year, or only year that we had it, we played a tough Six Nations team, or Six Nation Rivermen, who are a great team. And I don't want to say they're stacked, but Zed Williams.
That was a great series, though. Wow.
Yeah. Palace, right? Johnny Palace. So that was good. And basically, Hill being a net, Warren Hill, right? So again, you know what? That was a battle. But again, that was a tough series, back and forth. And they're a very skilled team. And, they ended up winning that year. But we had a special group of young men that had a chance to win, to compete for the President's Cup the year before. And then losing in the Ontario final was tough.
Yeah.
Oh, we lost Gary. I think we lost Gary. Well, yeah, you're here and I'm here, so we must have lost Gary.
Okay.
Yeah, continue.
There he is. He's back on.
I'm back. It's amazing.
But again, going back to that Titans team, that's a very special team. And I know, they kind of folded or whatever. And I know Jamie picked that up. And I know, him being an owner and having the Oakville Rock major team, and then having the senior B team there now too, which is really good. And it sounds like they'll be competing for a President's Cup this year, which is pretty special, because when you play in that tournament, when I won 2 President's Cups in 1992, I think you played 6. There's always one day you played 2 games in a row or back to back. But now you're playing like 8 or 9 games in a week, and your body just, it's beaten, right? You're playing every day for a week. So that's a true battle. Whereas, you talk about the Man Cup, you're playing the best 4 to 7. That's tough too. But again, the President's Cup's a grind.
Mm-hmm. It's also in Oakville this year, so that's another big thing too. So it should be exciting. I'm looking forward to going to see it. But we talked briefly about the Sixes. You're the team coordinator.
Yes.
What's involved? And you got great people. Again, you got Ed Como, you've got John Grant Jr., Brody Merrill, Randy Mearns, Jordan Hull, absolute top of the top people. So what's involved and what's going to be happening?
Well, I think, what happened in Birmingham, that was pretty special. Like we had that camp that we had and basically it's very new. The sixes, I know other countries have played it, over in Europe and that, but to have it here with, the U.S., the Iroquois and ourselves, and it's a different game. Like again, you only got 12 players, 2 of them are goalies, and you got 10 runners. And you're basically playing 6-on-6, and it's just straight up and down. I call it, like I said, speed lacrosse without contact of box, and it's a very special game. You play 4 8-minute quarters. The penalties are only 30 minutes or 30 seconds or 1 minute, but it's a fast game, up and down, and how it turned out. Picking that team was very hard. You probably could have picked with that roster 2 or 3 teams out of that. But again, tough roster, but the team that was picked was very special. And people always question, who's on your team and why is he on your team? Why didn't this guy make it and that? But again, it proved itself being in Birmingham that we went in undefeated and beat the U.S. in the final, but that was pretty special.
How many players do you have on the side on each team?
Well, there's 12, and there's 2 guys. There's 2 guys you don't try. Like it's basically you're playing 5-on-5. And your backup goalie doesn't dress, right?
So, okay. So you've got one extra group.
You got a spare, exactly. But again, it's speed lacrosse. It's in Birmingham. I'll tell you this: it was hot. It was 100 degrees playing in that. So when you played at night, it was good, but during the day, it was very hot. The guys were in the ice baths, and you had to hydrate and eat well. But I'll tell you, it's a tough game. Again, the players that we're looking for at the time. They were all good 2-way players, and that's what we talked about, Gary. Like when I came up, you played offense and defense. Well, in this game, you got to be able to play 2 ways. You got to be able to play defense. If you look at the roster, all those guys could play 2 ways.
Right,
special group.
And
Dylan Moore didn't make it, right, because he had that broken hand from
that's right.
NLL. So Dauber stepped up and basically helped us win a championship there too. So that was a big feather in his cap. He did a great job.
Remind me of the size of the field. I hope I'm not putting you on the spot.
I think it's 36 by 100. It's basically you could fit 2 fields on a football field side by side. Wow. So when we went to Baltimore, when we first started this to compete with that, they had it in the middle of the field with pylons. When we went to Birmingham, they had the football field. It was basically a soccer field. They both had the men's and women's side by side, but it's fast, really fast. Great rules, great game.
Yeah, so it's a little smaller than the regular field lacrosse, isn't it?
Oh, twice. It's basically half of it, or less than a half of that, right? Because again, in football you don't have the end zones, but it's basically a half of a field that you can fit side to side, but it's really quick. But
just to get an understanding of the difference between field lacrosse and the sixes, they made it to accommodate the kind of fields they can find because of the Olympics, I think.
Well, basically exactly what you said. So when the IOC was there in Birmingham to watch it, because they're looking for introductory sports and they're trying to get that, and the women's team did great too. They beat the U.S. in the final too. So again, a tribute to the kudos to the women's and those girls that played, because a lot of them came from Baltimore in the World Field Championships for the girls. They left and they all came to Birmingham for that. So they all said the same thing. They love the game just because the skill and the athleticism and that. But again, what you said, originally they only wanted 10. So basically they wanted like 2 goalies or 1 goalie and 9 runners. But with the heat and all that, they elected to World Lacrosse change it to 12, and having other countries involved too. Like I said, the big surprise there was Japan. I thought they were outstanding there too, and England in the men's group. But going back to your point there, Frank, they to have an Olympic sports, you only, it's like rugby sixes, right? You can't have a full team of 10s, which is going to be in San Diego this year. They wanted 6s. So again, to have the smaller game, smaller time, and then housing all the staff, all the athletes and everything else, they figured Sixers would be a team that would be introductory to this. Hopefully in 2026, I think it's in Paris, World Games. And then the goal is to have it in 2028 in the LA Olympics. That's the goal.
That's one that we're deeply aware of, and we believe that those Olympics are pivotal in the next step that lacrosse will take.
Huge.
And that'll be the launch. That'll be the launch. Now, we talked, again, we talked about the transition and out the front, out the back, or, as you played before, doing both. Do you think we're going back that way? The Sixes seems to be a way that to be playing both offense and defense. Your team has an awful lot of guys on transition who are quick and are drafted that way. But it seems as though that seems to be the mode where we're going.
Yeah, the prototype for that, and even when you look at the other countries that were involved in it, they didn't. I'm not saying they don't have the skill as the the top three teams like the Iroquois, the U.S. and Canada, but I think the way the game is, and they call it small games, and the way you do it now, small games. And I know we talked about this before, Gary. Before the women's now have a Sixes league in Oshawa right now, which I think they've been doing it 1 or 2 years, and it gives the women an opportunity to play that. And I think with kids, their attention spans are short when they're younger, but to play a full 2-hour field lacrosse game, now it's over in 32 minutes, 4 8-minute quarters, 2-minute breaks in between, and a 10-minute half. I think it's beautiful, right? It's basically 50 minutes. So you can have more games. You can play more games in a day as opposed to playing 1 or 2 field games a day. This way you can play 2 small games and you're still ready to go. And
TV ready at that. TV ready at that.
Takes a lot of the decisions out of the coach, because it's not like you can bench a guy. You don't want to bench a guy.
No.
Or a gal. It's very effective in ensuring that also from the perspective of the players, I'm making a joke about it, but it's important that the players get to play. And with the fewer players, that makes it a better opportunity for everybody to play and get more than enough of the game in them and be a part of it.
Yeah, everybody plays. That's a good part of this. The Sixes, everybody plays. But as you said, Frank, if somebody goes down, you're down a guy, right? You're down a player. So
you don't have a rotation.
Yeah, exactly. So again, you worry about that, and you build your team on that. But I thought the coaching staff, Brody Merrill, John Grant Jr., and Halsey did a great job of picking the staff and the players that were on that team. And I know there's people that were questioning the picks, but again, it said for itself.
It's going to happen.
Yeah,
that's another byproduct of not having that many players on the team.
Yes,
that's a given, and people have to get used to that. But that's why the decisions have to be made, and a lot about sports is I know it's about making your own luck, but sometimes even your own luck doesn't help. Bad luck can hit you, but that's part of sports. And then I guess part of management picking players who can handle the responsibility of being that dependable to play. Picking guys as well who are fit, but not that lacrosse players, for the most part, I think more than any other sport, are as fit as any. So I mean, that change is conducive to the type of athlete that lacrosse players are.
No, I agree with you 100% on that, Frank. Like I said, when we played, it was like baseball. Spring training was to get in shape. Training camp, guys are in shape. They're at the gym. They've got personal trainers. They have a regime. They eat well. And they're all different. We're all creatures of habit, but they all have different ways of doing that. But the skill level and the conditioning of the players these days, you never question. You don't. Like professional lacrosse players in the NLL, PLL, even kids in school, right? We went down. We had a game in Colorado there 2 weeks ago. We went and saw DU and Utah. And the game is just up and down, up and down. It's just the skill level is amazing, but the fitness levels of these kids now are just amazing.
Yeah, it's wonderful to watch them, and the fans get tired just watching the players. Ask Gary. Gary will tell you.
Well, now, I want to bring it to the State of the Union. We only got a couple of minutes left. How do you see the league? The NLL, I guess. How do you see the league where it is now and where it's headed?
I think we're up to 15 teams. In the East Division we've got 8. In the West we've got 7. It'd be nice to get another team out west. wherever they can fit it in. But I think now with the PLL and kids going to the States, and now you got American players, they've got the American Box League, you got NCAA lacrosse. They had a chance this year with PBL, the PBLA, and then the LL. I think there's the growth in indoor lacrosse and lacrosse in general is big, and with the sixes. But going back to your question on the NLL, I think you got to deal with TSN, you got to deal with ESPN. We have a new commissioner, and he's got a vision. It's going to take him a couple of years to get his. He wants to take it all and see it. But I just think we want to keep the franchises that are stable. But I think the growth is good, and our game is getting better and better each time. And you got to have officials, you got to have referees, you got to have coaches. And the good thing about the coaching now is that the former players now retiring are now in the coaching, so that's good, and they're giving back. But I think as this league grows, we have to keep going at it. And the game's evolved. Like when I started with the Rock in '99 to where it is now, it's just growing and growing and growing, and it's just an amazing sport. And when you take people to a game, like I got some friends coming Saturday night in Hamilton against the Rock, they'll all comment and say, "Oh my God, like why isn't this sport like national sport, and why isn't it all over the next big game here?" But I think it speaks for itself. We just got to get the people out there, how we get the brand. PLL's done a good job of advertising and all that. I think the NLL needs to crop that up too. And you can see that the growth is coming. It's just how we sell the game, how we get it across to the people.
Right. I think one of the biggest changes that has been made in the league going back to the previous commissioner, the league didn't just take people who were willing to buy a team. They took people. They brought in people with not just deep pockets, but a deep understanding of building something. There's a lot of capital that the investment people have bought into this league, and I'm sure their advice is going to help down the road as well.
Well, I would agree. Like I said, you look at the ownership group. You got Joe Tsai, who's got San Diego and basically Vegas now. You've got the Calgary Flames with Calgary. You've got Vancouver. You've got Colorado, right? And you just see the growth that this league is going with the ownership. And same with Padula. He's got Buffalo, and he's got the Bandits, and he's got the Rochester Nighthawks, right? So these people are passionate, they're business people, and they want to see this league grow and survive. And I think it's a great game. We just got to sell it and get it out there to the world here. So I know it's watched over in Europe a lot, because when you play these other countries, they know who people are, and you don't know who they are, but they all know, who Lyle Thompson is. They know who Tom Schreiber is, right? They know who the top players are and who the players are. So it's good that it's out there, but we got to keep growing, expanding, and getting better and better. The product
is part of it that it's in the shadow of hockey. Do you think? Do you think it gets shadowed by hockey?
Well, it's the time of the year too. So we're basically, lacrosse is played in the summertime. You got PLL and you got MSL, and now that you're competing in arenas, so you need arenas and venues. And like you said, some of these owners that are in there now, right? They've owned hockey teams or other sporting basketball teams and that too. So again, arena dates are big, and basically our games are Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think if this league with games got to expand, I think we're going to have to start playing, during the week, and hopefully becoming full-time, start off with a 24 game schedule and see if we can grow there to the old league where they had a 40 game schedule.
Right.
Yeah. That's a full-time job. That's the goal.
Well, I just want to thank you for taking the time, especially on your birthday. I wanted to take the time with us and talk lacrosse. It's been awesome. And I wish you the best of luck this weekend against the Rock. Maybe not too much, but I wish you the best of luck.
There you go.
I wish you a lot of luck. I'm going to take your side. Just in case he has to inspect another project that I do. I just want to I'm out of that business now. I'm retired.
You're retired.
Yeah. By the way, I supervise the building of a guy's house you might know. You both might know him. Name's Backley.
Oh, yeah. Backley Construction. Yep. Yeah. Know them.
Yeah. It's important that that you come here and you talk to us. You guys have all been wonderful. Everybody in lacrosse has been great to this show, and this show's tried to be good to the game. I think people should understand that the game is so self-sufficient. It really doesn't need anything else. I think that's part of the greatness of the game, and maybe that'll be something that that part of the game will let go a little bit and allow new people to come in and try for the growth. It's two different kinds of things. The confidence to pay the players. You mentioned it a little bit. To pay the players to be professionals and to play more games would be very helpful if that's possible. I'm not saying they have to, but it would help to what
No,
you do.
that's no, that's a good thing. Like I said, thank you both, Gary and then Frank, for today. And as we say, keep growing the game.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thanks for doing this.
Good night, fellas.
Good
Take
night,
care.
bud. Okay, Sean Ferris was our guest, and I got to tell you, it was a lot of fun. Gary, thanks for doing this.
My pleasure as always, Frank. It's great to talk
And Sean
lacrosse.
Ferris, of course. So for Gary Groob and Sean, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching NLL Lacrosse Talk, seen live Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Lacrosse Talk, news, entertainment, and other sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time. Pick up a stick, won't you?